I was very excited when the word of this anthology came out because there had been an essay in Strange Horizons years ago, and they were talking about the fact that in a lot of science fiction, there weren't a lot of sports, whereas sports sort of rule our world. When people create imaginary worlds, there's not a lot of sports in those worlds. So then this came along and got me thinking more about it. I'm not an announcer and I don't play one on TV, but you just have to use your imagination. The name of the story is Gravity Field Golfball. Welcome, sports fans. There's a full crowd here for today's intergalactic bowl and an expected viewership of 20 million sentient life forms. Wow. While we wait for the gravity wells to generate and the game to begin, I'd like to share some of the player interviews I conducted earlier today. First up, Buzz Johnson from the defending champion Black Holes. Tell me, Buzz, what goes through your mind as your team racks up an undefeated season? Well, I just try to play one game at a time. So you don't approve of player cloning? I can't speak for the team or the league, but I'd hate to have to tackle myself. Next up, a contemplative moment with Hawk Smith, lowest league scorer 2 years in a row. Hawk, the Dynamos were favored in the playoffs until they were knocked out of the running during the last game of the regular season. What happened? We just couldn't keep the ball out of our opponent's end zone. I don't really want to go into the formulas right now, but let's just say that our universal gravitational constant was off. What does this mean for next year? We'll fire the front office, shuffle our coaches, and raise ticket prices. It's all about the fans. And finally, Crusher Hunts from the upstart Gravitrons. Crusher, the Gravitons seem to come out of nowhere. Did you ever in your wildest dreams imagine that your team would be suiting up for this afternoon? Be the ball. Excellent advice, Crusher. Crusher, you're floating away. Be the ball. Well, there you have it, folks. And there's the whistle. And that's that. When my daughter Annalise heard what the anthology was about, she decided that she wanted to write a speculative story about sports. And here she is to do her first public reading. Yes, I'll help you.
Outer space hockey. Sunny stood in the goal. Sunny stood in the goal. She watched the player from the Plutos skate towards her with the puck. He tried to get a goal. Sunny blocked the goal. The puck swerved off the icy rings of Saturn and into outer space. The end.
And these says copies if people would like autographed copies.
Very good.
Oops, that's your copies.
Your copies.
Are you reading anything else?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry.
The name of this story is The Last Spelling Bee, and it appeared in Spaceways Weekly, which was a publication out of Canada that they emailed you stories on a weekly basis. Glancing around the auditorium at the 6th graders I had come to know so well, I decided that this wasn't such a bad beat after all. Of course, yesterday I was cursing it, but today I knew that I was done at the end of the year. No more reviews of school plays, concerts, talent shows, art exhibits, science fairs, spelling bees, year after numbing year. Come summer, I was moving up to local government. After today, I would never have to look at another spelling bee in the face. Arthur J. Merlin Middle School, I am graduating to the big time. Taken unaware by the sudden applause, I came back to earth to see the principal walking onto the stage. The principal is your pal was the first thing said to reporters assigned to the schools. The second was, you won't be there forever. The principal cleared his throat before speaking. Students, faculty, staff, and interested citizens, I'd like you to welcome to our annual Spring Spelling Bee. This year promises to be spectacular with 4 very talented young people vying for the win. Unfortunately, I have a meeting to go to, so let me turn you over to our own Miss Diedrichson, English teacher, magic coach, keeper of the dictionary. Could the water commissioners be any more obsequious? Miss Diedrichson came out onto the stage, followed by 4 fifth graders who rolled the dictionary on its special cart to the podium. As Miss Diedrichson thanked her bearers and introduced the contestants, I made a note to double-check their names. Now is not the time to create an incident. One irate parent, I might yet not see town hall. More than one of my colleagues have been destroyed by a letter to the editor. Not one of those letters had been free from error, but that was beside the point. Miss Diedrichson opened the dictionary at random and leaned forward to see where her finger had landed. Amy, your word is rhythm. Amy marched to center stage and lowered her head. Stretching out her arms, she slowly raised them on the horizontal and then pointed at the rear of the auditorium. It was the sound of a lone bass drum. She pointed to the right and a snare drum started keeping time. Pointed to the left and a set of Congo drums joined the fray. Amy's hands jerked and pointed the various drum beats into a symphony of sound, half jazz, half jungle. The rhythm waxed and waned, rose and fell, built to a crescendo. Amy lifted her arms straight up and the sudden silence was deafening until the applause began. Raising her head, Amy bowed and returned to her seat. Very good, Amy. Miss Diedrichson chose another word. Brian, you have disease. Walking to the middle of the stage, Brian sat down in a lotus position, closing his eyes. After the wild nature of the drums, the lull was a good opportunity to catch my breath, search for the best words to describe the magic I had just witnessed. The quiet in the auditorium was broken by a single person coughing. Then a second person started coughing, and then there was a small group all trying to contain themselves. On the other side of the auditorium, someone sneezed, and soon that person was surrounded by half a dozen people sneezing. After a short period of remission, both the cough and the sneeze began to spread in an ever-widening circle. I was a sneezer myself, and almost immediately wished I had brought another handkerchief. As the boundaries crossed, the people within the overlap were freed from both symptoms. The people in the farthest corners gave their last sneeze or cough, and again it was quiet. Miss Diedrichson shook her head. I'm sorry, Brian, but diseases don't cancel each other out. Personally, I was just glad that Brian hadn't succumbed to 6th grade hormones and decided to exhibit the spreading of ED. Now that would be a spelling bee to cover. Miss Diedrichson had never warmed to me during my stay here, but her lack of appreciation wasn't anything the little spell couldn't handle. Any one of those 4 on stage could probably mix up a suitable potion. Perhaps I should befriend one of them before my stay here was complete. I may want to swing a vote someday, curry some favor downtown in return for an exclusive. Not the winner, though. I'd want to connect with one of the losers, someone who had gave their all, only to be frustrated by a 2nd, 3rd, or 4th place. That little magician would be hungry to prove ability, to wallow in the power of getting the dog walking bylaw passed. Round after round went by as the spelling bee continued. Now I was paying less attention to the magic and to the magicians themselves, who would be the easiest to mold. My story would suffer from my lack of attention, but maybe I could write a human interest piece rather than a straight review. The editor wouldn't care as long as I filled the space. I'd interview the 4 magicians after the contest, see what they thought about their performance and the outcome. What made them decide to go out for magic instead of, say, soccer? Were their parents proud? Was there a tradition in the family of casting spells? I suddenly realized that only 2 students remained on the stage. In fact, it was the final round. The score was tied, and Daniel was standing there waiting for the final word. Thanking the 6th grader sitting next to me for the update, I watched Miss Diedrichson choose a word from the dictionary and then freeze. Even from my seat, I could see her shiver, pale. The whole auditorium tensed as if reading over her shoulder. How bad could it be? The 6th grader next to me grabbed my hand and squeezed. Miss Diedrichson's voice trembled as she spoke. Daniel, if you get this word, you're the winner of this year's spelling bee. You'll receive a $100 savings bond courtesy of National Bank, a free ice cream a day from Cone World, and a complimentary sitting at Fritz Photographer. She paused. Daniel. Miss Diedrichson took a deep breath. Daniel, your word is Armageddon.